on YouTube.
Sweet.
I think this is one of my favorite ones I've done.
I like that. Well, Netflix is giving everybody a show, so I don't see why Making Geeks can't have their own.
Right?
Yep.
So Donovan, how you doing? Good to see you in the chat.
Like that one?
Yeah.
So Donovan, how you doing? Good to see you in the chat.
Yeah. Ooh. Let me get this.
Box competition. Is that your new thinking glove, Wes?
Yes. It's a good beard stroking glove.
Oh, Donovan's here. Donovan, your package should be in the mail tomorrow.
Oh,
Filled with fart.
is a good size.
That's what she said.
What are we watching here on Netflix? Lost in Space is actually really good. I don't know if you guys have watched it yet.
I saw the trailer for it, and I really
just
want
got
to see
it.
it.
Master of None, that was a good show.
It was pretty good.
I'm not a fan of him.
Definitely not for everybody.
Yeah. The Hello New York episode, or I Love You New York. I think I've talked about it before. Like, that was one of my favorite episodes of television, like, ever. Hot Fuzz is an amazing movie.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, I noticed that, Donovan. I was sending you a package that I have yet to receive one.
Ouch.
I threw one of my magnets in there too for you.
You have a magnet?
I do. I just got a couple workshop magnets. I got like 10 of them, and my kids got a hold of them, and they're scattered all around the house. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'll bring you one.
So let's kind of dig through ideas really quickly so we can officially start.
Let's do it.
And if anybody in the live chat has any ideas for topics that are currently kind of like bouncing around your brains, we'd love to hear what those are too.
Oh no, the magic's broken.
We're trying to create a backlog of ideas and topics that we could kind of jump to on the fly when needed. Otherwise, we're always just talking about movie trailers and Josh's latest video. And speaking of movie trailers, actually, Mark, you already brought it up, the latest Deadpool trailer.
I haven't seen it. I don't want it to show me too much. I'm hesitant.
It doesn't. It just gives you like an idea of the plot, which is always nice to know going into the movie.
Donovan has the idea about build challenges. How do we feel about them? Are there too many going on? Too few?
Oh, I can't show you guys because now we're recording. That's fun. Donovan's here too. So the Art of Geek Challenge, the Avengers thing that's going on.
Yeah.
I made a thing, and it's pretty awesome. But
Cool.
it's going to be in one of Bob's videos. So I can't show it yet. But it is Avengers related. And it's cool.
Can you talk about if it's woodworking, 3D printing?
I cut it on a laser.
Okay. Lasers are always cool.
Lasers. Because it's in a video that is... The premise of the video is you can make something really simple with regular tools, or you can make something super outlandish with outlandish tools. And I got to do the outlandish half. And it was fun. Let me see if I have your phone numbers. I'll send it to you.
Got your digits.
Unless you want to post it on Slack.
Mm-hmm. Or in Skype.
I could do that.
Skype even. No, Skype will break me. Don't do it.
I'll post it in Slack. Maybe. Where'd it go? Oh, I think it's this one.
Could we talk about like props or toys that we've made for our kids? Maybe.
What have I made for them?
I don't know if I've...
I made a couple lightsabers.
Or stuff that you want to make that you know they'd like.
I want to say we've done that, but maybe we haven't.
You were making something with Samantha recently, weren't you, Wes? Was it a sign or something you're doing on the CNC?
She just wants her like initials on her wall.
That's right.
So I was walking through the CNC process with her, letting her vacuum up all the MDF powder.
Mm-hmm.
Let her unscrew the board with a screwdriver or a drill with a little Phillips head bit on it.
It's fun seeing those little things that they kind of see as being a big deal, and just kind of like, you know, saying, you know, you're getting older now. You're going to slowly be able to do some of these things.
Yeah, she's like, I can use the drill. I'm like, yeah. She's like,
Just keep your fingers away from the spinny part.
yeah.
When we talk about that, when we talk about how do we use our geeky machines to help our kids build stuff.
Is that going to be part of episode 100 or no?
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Got to be there for that one. Why isn't this uploading?
Because Bob knew you were going to do it and he stopped it.
Upload file. Share it in the general.
So our contact for that event, he messaged me and said that he saw the first preliminary or the second preliminary, whatever the counting is, a schedule with me on it, and for some reason they like the way I set it up was the way they requested, where it had all of our names, but it has like the primary like owner of the whole submission, and then it has all of us broken down underneath my name basically. And for some reason, it had me and Joel Telling on a stage.
Not bad company.
And he's like, yeah, there's just like Schmuck Joel something Telling. I don't know. You might, you know, he's like, you're on there with him. I don't know who that is. He's like, I told him to fix it. I'm like,
I'd watch that panel with the two of you.
Donovan, you have to.
Yeah, I would love to meet you in person.
You have to, man.
I know where you live now.
Gotta shake a man's hand.
Yep. We've joked before that, you know, I don't know if you guys are just digital avatars or real people until I actually see you in the flesh. So You know, when we were in Boston, I finally realized that you guys are real people, not these Max Headroom type figures on my screen.
My video quality looks about right now. My nicer
Well,
video is
well.
on the end of my Nerf gun, which is lying on the floor, so that's helpful.
Why isn't this garbage uploading?
Don't know.
I do what I want.
Anything current? Anything new? What's kind of what's baking your brains right now? Mark, you said there was a couple things.
I don't know if I would want to go public with that quite yet.
Okay, that's fine. We could do kind of like a quick potpourri episode, and then maybe the process of us talking, we'll do a more solid topic for the midweek geek. I mean, who knows?
Sean, I have a question for you as a school teacher. This is probably not topic worthy. Are kids snorting condoms?
Oh, I heard about this.
Okay, well, it's not like I witnessed these things.
But I mean, you have to be on the lookout for such stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hardly get out of my cave at work, aka my classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So unless some idiot does something in my classroom, I'm probably not really aware of it, and I'm not listening around for the gossip or any of those things. So I'm aware of that because I saw some Reddit post or something on YouTube about it, but I've never heard anything about my students doing it. Same thing with the stupid Tide Pod thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I only heard about the Tide Pods. I never actually saw anybody do it. And I think I saw a picture of a girl with like a condom half up her nose.
Right. And something that's also happening is, so a couple of people I think have done it, but then other people jump on the bandwagon because it's the new stupid spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they are faking it. I don't think they're really doing it because they want the views, they want the attention. I don't think.
I heard that was what the Tide Pods were.
Yeah, but even some of the idiots with the Tide Pods were actually still putting them in their mouths, but then spitting them out. But still, even to put that stupid thing in your mouth is, I think went a step too far. But
I mean, I licked my Nintendo Switch cartridge. I guess I'm kind of in the same.
So did
boat.
I. Yeah, I did too.
But, a couple years ago, so it wasn't the Tide Pods, it wasn't the condoms. There were idiot kids. Well, okay, the cinnamon challenge, but even worse than that was they were taking vodka shots through their eyes.
What?
Oh.
They would take a shot of vodka and basically into their eye, directly into their bloodstream, and possibly blinding themselves.
How? You don't.
Or up the back end.
Right, I've heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That you can do through your eye?
That was with the tampon soaked vodka.
I don't know
get you
about
drunk
that.
over time. That's just that's
or
just smart.
There's the Steve-O way where he did it intravenously.
That's just science.
Yeah, taking alcohol intravenously is a bad idea. But you can do it. It gets you drunk really fast because you bypass your liver. But your eyes, I don't get your eyes.
Drinking isn't supposed to hurt that much until the next day if you were.
We haven't talked about drinking though.
Okay, you guys are already making a fatal error because you're trying to look at this situation logically, and you're talking about teenagers. The logic doesn't apply.
Well, yeah, but to be fair, I remember
fair.
I remember drinking as a teenager, and if it hurt, I didn't want to do it.
But
yeah, but what hurts when you're
you
drunk?
didn't have a YouTube channel and weren't trying to be a spectacle for a million people.
Okay, fair enough.
We haven't talked about booze.
What? How much input?
Is there?
I mean, you can if you want.
Is there really even a conversation worth having regarding alcohol?
Well, yeah, that was something we could never really talk about because Wes doesn't drink.
Yeah, but part of the conversation would be why Wes doesn't drink.
I'm not a heavy drinker. I mean,
well, if you want to talk about that, Wes, I don't even know if that's something you would want to talk about.
Too soon. Okay. Too soon.
Did you see the thing I sent you? It's on Slack.
I was still.
I didn't want to press play because I didn't know if it was going to.
I don't know if there's sound. There might be sound that'll give it away.
Oh. Hmm. Oh. Oh.
That's great. I like that. Oh, I got a really good mod for that then.
There's more. That's only half. Imagine that one is on the other side, but it has.
No. I got it, but
parts.
I want to steal that idea and turn it into something different.
I already have the thing that I'm going to steal from my own idea and turn it into other things.
Josh, I love it.
And I have to type it in Slack, and I'm sorry if you're listening to the live stream, but we can't reveal yet.
This is super secret stuff. But Wes has my designated Art of Geek challenge efficient. That is my non-official entry.
I've been waiting to make a project, and this is what I would want to do with. That's what I would want to do with it. I already have a full skit planned out for it.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. Okay, so we don't have to talk about drinking specifically. We talked a little bit before about some things we did when we were younger. I don't know if there's something related in terms of certain behaviors, certain things that I don't know. Some of this gets kind of personal, but I think some of it could be like interesting topics. Just trying to figure out how to frame it for the show. Maybe expectations, things that we don't do that people think we do.
This is really good YouTube fodder right here.
Yeah, I know. That's okay. People get to see our process of how we actually go through and start talking about some of these things.
We could talk about how I'm dragging other people away from Facebook.
All right, you give yourself too much credit.
Yeah,
No, it wasn't just you. It was other people too. It was fun.
We already spent an entire show talking about the social media thing, which actually hit a chord if we go back and we look at the email that we got today.
It did.
And we should bring that up towards the end of the episode.
I went back to Facebook for one afternoon because I heard Mr. Swain was wessing it up. And
I still don't know what that means. You did not explain what that means.
Okay, so if you think you're doing something and you're like, man, I'm completely right and justified. And then Wes okay, if you're in the YouTube chat, here's Wes. All of your assumptions and everything you just did were wrong.
That's exactly how it seems. That is exactly how it seems. Just like he kind of peeks in and goes, hey, guys.
You guys, isn't this going to be so great? I'm so happy about what's about to happen. Nope. Nope.
So I'm a buzzkill, basically, is what you're saying.
You're not a buzzkill. The laws of physics
I'm reality
apply,
check.
and that won't work at all. And then you just go, damn, he's right. And you go cry in a corner.
Hashtag reality check, I guess.
Yeah.
Or Josh drops the mic
Right.
on an admin.
Huh? Oh. Yeah.
And
He wouldn't
tries to
fight back.
clarify.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Groupthink.
Was it after I left?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when you left.
Well,
But he was
before
like,
you
this
saw it.
group, this was, Aragon was like, this group, you don't have negativity. I'm like, well, what does that even mean? Does disagreeing with you count as negativity? I'm like, define negativity. So he screen captures, like, the Webster's dictionary of negativity. And so I screen grabbed the definition of groupthink, where people don't take responsibility for themselves and they all just bow down to
I love
like
it.
a stupid like mob mentality. Then there was nothing else after that. And I was like, come on.
Yeah.
That was a perfect stepping stone for some fighting.
Yep.
I don't think the type of debate that you're looking for is going to happen in the way that you would probably appreciate.
He certainly does
love
thing up like
debates.
that too. He was
Yeah, I
talking to
know,
someone else,
but
and he was like, blah, 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 something about some other tangent about the name thing that David Pachuta brought up. And then he's like, I forget what exactly it was. I've screen captured it, but he was like, yeah, you have any more questions? He was like referring to that tangent. I was like, yeah, but the original question that I asked before, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, didn't respond. Like, why did you kick these people out? What's the deal? What's the deal with that? I don't know.
Facebook drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't need to go on Facebook much. I went there for like 5 minutes and realized the whole community was burning down again. I don't know.
Isn't it sad to say that though?
No, I called it.
Again.
I felt justified. I sat there and smirked as I
Although
watched the Jericho burn.
I do find it really funny all the pot shots that the We Like to Make Stuff admins are taking.
So I think it's the natural rise and fall of anything that actually becomes popular and maybe gets too big for its britches.
Yep.
And
Especially when you have one person running it.
yeah.
Running it.
And I think the funny thing is it's a perfect mirror of what is happening with Facebook itself.
Not really running it.
Hey Josh, do you remember that?
Ground.
Do you remember the response that I had to you on that one comment? Poke, poke, poke.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't justify your actions to people, then you shouldn't be doing it. If you can't justify it, if you're the leader of a group and people are coming at you with legitimate questions and you either ignore them or just cast them out without giving them legitimate answers, then you're a terrible leader.
Or
And you need to
delete the
look inside
questions.
Yeah, like
Yeah, he started deleting my replies. I'm like, all right, that's enough. And I left.
Okay, so here's a quick question without completely focusing just on what we were talking about, but maybe something regarding the idea of leadership. Leadership, in our family, with our kids, community, profession, whatever that is, thinking about the examples that we're setting and kind of the inherent responsibility behind that. I think that social media is going to inherently come into that conversation a little bit by see if we could not rehash and have the exact same conversation as last episode, if you think that's possible.
I like that.
I think everybody probably has some unique experience with that too, based on past professions or whatever, especially with the military veterans and the. Okay, you guys want to go for it?
Sure, we'll make something out of it.
Yeah.
All right. All right, let me know when you guys are ready.
I'm ready. And I'm closer to the mic because someone made a comment.
I think that was more directed at me, but I tried to fix that in the last episode.
The people listening in the chat, how do our relative volumes sound to each other? Like I'm talking right now. Someone else say something.
Good job. And now,
Say something.
Say something.
we can all be heard individually.
Harmony.
Harmony.
You like a barbershop quartet.
Boom, 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 boom.
Boom, boom,
Boom,
boom.
boom, 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 boom. Yo.
Sweet.
All right.
Thank you and good night.
Hello, Internet. It is that time once again for the Making Geeks podcast, a podcast for makers, dads, and geeks. You are listening to episode 95. And on today's show, we have our 3 co-hosts along with myself, starting with Mr. Josh Price.
Hey, everybody.
And Mr. Mark O'Keefe.
Hello?
And the one that is all about that bass, Mr. Wes Swain.
What? Good day.
No rebels. No rebels.
And I am Sean Jolliger. All right, so.
What's up?
So how you guys doing this week? How you guys been?
Productive.
Sweet. It's a good adjective.
Yeah.
It has been a busy and productive week. A lot of different things going on.
I'm surprised it's Thursday already.
It seemed like it came pretty quick.
Yep.
That's what she said.
Gonna be another one of those.
Got it.
And I've got no problem with that.
I'm gonna leave that volume of that statement kind of low. I'm not gonna bring that one up. People have to listen carefully for that one. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, I really highly suggest that you go and tune in to the YouTube video version. There are some special little nuggets just for you guys, for our listeners.
I defined Wes's mannerism, his defining mannerism in video form that can only be captured when you watch it. And it's going to be sprinkled throughout this episode. So hopefully at random times during this episode, I'm going to get these guys to laugh by doing almost nothing. And it's only going to make sense if you see the YouTube feed. So I'll let you in on it maybe. On the Wednesday episode, I'll let you in on it.
There you go.
It may be relevant to what we're talking about today, but we'll see.
So any special projects or anything you guys are working on? Anything kind of on the bench?
I actually put 2 things on my bench as of yesterday. I'm starting on my Metroid project, and I'm going to recreate my Supernatural project.
What is Supernatural?
The TV show. Fight monsters. Fun to watch.
Is it proper? Is it prop related? Is it
two prop related? Yes.
Okay.
Double prop related. The one is I'm gonna try and do a Metroid missile, but the actual whole 9 yards. So the glass dome, the base, the missile inside. I'm going to attempt to do lights and sound effects. So we'll see how that goes. And then the other one's just a prop knife from the show. But I'm going to try to electroplate it. So.
Oh, that's cool. I like that idea. I have no knowledge of any of that stuff.
Yeah, I saw some guy did a 3D printed Captain Phasma helmet. And there's a kit where it's a conductive primer. And then you connect one end of an electrode to the prop and the other end to the paintbrush, and you just dip it in the solution and just kind of wash it. And eventually there's like a copper base coat and then a silver top coat, and it came out amazing. It was really cool.
That's similar to something I wanted to try for one of my projects. The thing that you sent me, the little 3D prints that you sent, Mark, of a coin.
Yes.
One of the finishing techniques I wanted to try was electroplating, but it's plastic that you printed me. It was resin, right? Cured resin.
Yeah.
And I found there was like this spray. It's like a nickel spray. You can spray it, and it basically, it's like a spray paint, but it's highly toxic. You have to be like outside and have lots of protection on. And it puts a thin enough coating of metal on there that then you can electroplate it with gold or the normal electroplating process, which otherwise would be ineffective to a plastic because it has to have some sort of thing to attach to. So that's one of the.
What if you did the metal infill filaments?
Maybe
there is a way to do that, but I just found the thing that I was talking about.
I'm not sure if it just attached to those particles or if it's enough in there to. I could try. Yeah, that's a good idea. That was one of the
fill the
ideas.
particle gaps.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
As far as on my bench, last week you kind of lit a fire under me a little bit, Josh. I don't know if you remember, sort of a offhanded comment, which I didn't really think too much of it because I kind of earned the reputation. But you said, I forget what led to it. I think I said something about doing something in a timely manner or something, and you were like, "You never do anything in a timely manner," or I forget what exactly you said. Right?
It was not quite so slanderous, but I mean that is the general undertone.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to put a video out. And I did it within 24 hours.
Nice.
So I made a little Nintendo Labo overview, preview kind of video. I tried to spin it like a kind of a perspective from a maker's perspective on the Nintendo Labo is what I named it. So it's about 3 minutes long, pretty short. I wanted to keep it pretty concise. And I had a lot of fun making it. I used no footage of my own. I just took other trailers that they released and other footage and sort of re-edited it, and it was kind of fun to have that, where I didn't have to sift through my own footage, like piles of stuff, and, set up the cameras and all that sort of deal. This is a little more streamlined, and I got it done within a day, so I was pretty happy with that. I think it came out pretty well.
I liked it. I think you did a really good voiceover for it, too.
Thanks.
You did. Your affiliate links worked. Your whole video got me. Because I had just got I pre-ordered the sample pack.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the robot, like, my initial thoughts of how the whole system was going to work, I was like, man, that robot, it's probably only going to work in, like, a couple motions because it'll move the thing up and down. And then I learned, like, how in-depth it works. And then I watched your video, and I'm like, oh, you need to get the robot. So I used your affiliate link and got the robot kit. It'll be here tomorrow.
Sweet. Thanks, buddy.
It works.
And for anybody listening right now, we had an initial conversation regarding the Nintendo Labo stuff with Caleb Kraft when we had him on as a guest on the show. And we were actually talking about, what sensors are they going to open up and make available. So actually might be a good idea to go back and listen to that episode because we talk about...
Someone's getting mugged.
Sound like an octopus with chainmail falling down the steps.
Right.
We talk about some of those things a little bit more in depth, so might be worth taking a look at that episode, and we talk about the sensors and stuff in relevance to Wes's video. So,
and I'm sure you're going to get plastered all over the internet about how awesome this stuff is tomorrow.
Oh yeah, and I've got a project already lined up, which the people that are in the video get to see. It's related to this, but Nintendo Labo.
Ooh.
Yeah. So here, I'll hold it up. Like, try this.
Hmm.
Huh?
Nintendo Shin Guards.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
I'm actually surprised you even showed that.
I normally wouldn't, but I'm gonna try to have it done so fast that no one else can catch up.
So fast.
I've already got it in progress.
Yeah, I actually really hope that you're first to the finish line on that because I think that is that's another one of your big views. I would imagine so. It would make sense to me.
Sweet.
And it's a redemption story for that particular piece too.
Right.
Like that piece was waiting for this thing, not for what it originally was intended.
I was thinking if you wear that for the robot costume too, in place of one of the things, or in addition to, you could look extra cool.
They might have to, write that into the script for
right.
Ready Player 2.
Ready Player 2.
So I have like 3 half to quarter finished projects in my shop right now. I've got a wood rack that I'm building to get my giant pile of walnut off the floor and onto the wall. I've got the queen-size bed out of a sheet of plywood. That is my Craig Tools project. It's almost done. And my dining room table that is just about finished. The base is finished. All the walnut boards on the top are joined. They need to be cut and planed and glued and chamfered, and then it'll be a table. So my workshop is working. I just can't do one project at a time. I get to a certain place and I stop, and then I turn around and I'm like, ooh, I can go do that one. And I get to a certain place and I have to stop. And so it's all there. It's just scattered.
Very cool.
Yeah. How about you, Sean?
My week has been pretty busy. I've been working on a couple different things, and some of it is kind of in the wake of the vendor event that I worked last week. If you listened to last Saturday's episode, I think, is when that came out, talking about that. And we were talking about me doing a vendor event, and I ended up going to the vendor event, which I initially didn't think I was going to be able to do. And I just about sold through everything that I brought, which is about 8 different pieces.
Nice.
And I wasn't expecting to initially because I hadn't been to an event like this and didn't know what to expect. But because the items that I had were were really tailor fit for that event. I think that it did pretty well. Nobody else had anything that was like that. So I sold through some little plaques that I had with a cutout of the Millennium Falcon that said "Never tell me the odds." I have these pairs of portraits of Luke and Leia, not Luke and Leia, Han and Leia that says "I love you, I know." And I think there was one more thing. I had like a portrait of a stormtrooper that went too. The TIE Fighter fidget spinners that I was working on, they didn't work out. I didn't even bring them. Something got messed up on the double-sided cut. I still have to do a little bit more problem solving there, but yeah.
Was there any pushback on the price for some of those items, or could you sold them for more, or like was there haggling?
There was actually no haggling at all. In fact, from the moment of somebody picking up and looking at it to them handing us money was actually pretty short.
Nice.
Which is kind of, well,
That means you can bump it up
Yep.
Yeah.
a little bit.
I probably could have, but I'm pretty happy with my price point, and I like the idea of a moving product as opposed to
Backing it back
having
up.
somebody kind of. Yeah, I mean, I worry about it. If the price is higher, somebody would actually hold it longer and really think about it.
Yep.
And the fact that
it's
it
kind of
went so
that-
quick, I like better.
If everybody that picked it up paid for it, that's how you know that you're a little low. If you have some people picked it up and then put it down, but other people did buy it and you eventually got through with it, you know you're kind of hitting your mark. That it's
It,
you're right
it
on
might
that.
it might have been a tad bit low, but when I consider what they actually were and the time put into creating each one, I'm okay with it for right now. I know I could have gone a little bit higher, but I'm okay for right now.
You
And
made a
there's
profit then, right?
oh yeah, I made a profit.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's a
You
huge
also-
success.
You also didn't say that it was a Star Wars themed craft fair, because
I thought I
I've
did.
never. Did you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody follows me on social,
That's-
I posted a bunch of pictures and some pretty impressive cosplayers too. They had the
Yeah,
full.
that was awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't a really big event, but it was. I don't know. It was fun for what it was. I had fun with it. There's another vendor event coming up that is not themed, and my wife wants me to do more Star Wars stuff, and I'm kind of hesitant because it's not tailor made for this upcoming event. But I am working on a couple of Star Wars pieces right now, which I might sell just through my online shop too. So I'm working through all that stuff. And with work right now, I'm in the middle of setting up my students to do kind of a coding and robotics competition, which is kind of strange for me because we haven't been practicing with any of that this year. But on June 2nd, I'll be, I don't know if I'm judging, but I know that I'm going to be at the competition with my students. So that's a whole new area of stuff that I'm kind of being pushed into right now, which feels kind of weird. So, yep, that's what's going on.
Cool.
Nice.
It's exciting.
Yes. So this week, I thought it would be interesting if we talked a little bit about leadership in all of its various forms. And we could talk about it from the point of view of being a father in a sense, the way, the examples you set for your kids and different things. Leadership in relationship to community and set an example for others, especially, with what we're doing as a podcast, things that we're making, things we're trying to inspire others to do. And then, even professionally based on past experiences or even what we're currently doing. And we haven't talked about this directly, so I thought it might be interesting because I think we have,
As a
Sure.
teacher,
yeah,
I mean, other than like people's professional workplaces, you have managers and bosses, but like you have to earn the respect, and you have some positional authority as a teacher, but like you have to earn the respect of kids,
right.
and not even kids. They're not kids. They're pseudo adults.
They are. They're works in progress.
Yeah, so as a child may take like the authority of a leader just because they're in a position. They're a teacher, they're a grown up. But high school kids, they're on the verge. Like they don't have to listen to anybody. So how do you lead a bunch of people that really have, other than like you're going to go to the principal, like there's no incentive for them to obey other than just convention. I mean, you can't send them to jail. You can't punch them. You can't fire them. You can't dock their pay.
Yeah, and I've had a specific conversation with a lot of people and trying to get them to understand a certain aspect of this, because I've had people, and it's usually older people right now. When I say older, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm saying people probably older than 50, because from a certain point of view, you've accepted the world a certain way, and when you look at younger kids and those different changes, what they've said to me a lot of the times is, well, the real world isn't that way. They shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be, behaving that way in a classroom. But the reality is, the classroom is really not a reflection of the real world. And it's for a lot of the reasons you decided. I can't fire my students. I can't dock their pay. I can't do any of those things. So my level of authority has pretty severe limits, especially now with modern education. And what I learned a long time ago, pretty much after the first year or two of teaching, is that it is a very, very delicate balance of what you do. I know, I realized what I just about said.
Gotcha. There's a Wesism number one.
Delicate balance of trying to make a student feel like you are on their side while still maintaining the position of an authority figure. And almost thinking of it more along the lines of a coach or a guide as opposed to a teacher. And this is a mentality that has changed education probably about 10 to 15 years ago, where it's no longer about, I'm teaching you this thing. Instead is, no, I'm helping you learn this thing. So that change in mentality is kind of what's powering a lot of this. And yeah, it's a delicate balance of trying to maintain that in all those different aspects.
See, that's interesting, because I had to shift. I like managerial techniques from being in the military, especially being in the Army.
Yeah,
where it's, you will do what I say because you have to do what I say, or I can cause you like physical harm. And so there's a lot of positional authority. There's a lot of just discipline instilled in people. That like drill sergeant attitude where you can scream and get up in somebody's face, and that's a perfectly acceptable and taught like managerial technique. And when I got out of the military, and I'm like, oh, you guys don't have to be here. Like the people that I'm in charge of, like, you choose to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And if I yell at you, like, I can get in trouble if I scream at you and curse in your face and spit in your face. Like, it's 180 degrees. So, like, Wes, how did you deal with that when you got out of the Navy? Actually, how was your Navy experience? Because, I mean, I'm a soldier, so I imagine you guys were just, like, walking around whistling and high-fiving and calling each other swabby or whatever you do. Like, you guys don't
we're peeling
yell
potatoes,
or get in trouble. Yeah.
I mean, boot camp, there's definitely, different scenarios. Probably most similar to what you're describing, as far as having someone in your face at all times, and, one person screw up, the whole, party has to pay for it, and all that sort of team building stuff, or team tearing down stuff, depending upon how you want to look at it. But when when I was in like the aircraft squadrons, it was similar to a regular job for the most part. There wasn't like a lot of situations where, like I said, the authority kind of thing has a place unless you're reprimanding somebody for screwing up really badly. Then there is a situation where, you can being brought in front of the captain or, your chief or whatever, and they can give you a good talking to where it feels like you're back in the principal's office at a middle school or elementary school. You're like, you feel like that feeling in your stomach, where you're like, you feel like you're in trouble.
Yelled at.
I don't know how to describe that feeling. I haven't had it in like a long time, but it's like kind of like in your chest, a little bit lower, and you're just like, it kind of hurts. I don't know what that's called exactly, but I guess it's called guilt. I don't know. Or morality or conscience. But Yeah, we had some people screwing up and stuff. They would get fussed at. But I mean, as far as leadership, as long as you did your job and did it the best way you could and didn't endanger anybody else's life in doing so, then you're good to go. I mean, there's definitely a set of rules and stuff that you had to maintain for like aircraft maintainer. And the person in charge had to make sure everybody followed those rules or people would die. Like if you left a wrench inside of an aircraft or didn't properly ATAF your tools, which is all tools are accounted for. So there was like a protocol that every time a shift opened at the squadron, in the morning, they would, or let's say the shift ended for the morning shift. Like let's say it's in the afternoon, you're passing it off to the people on nights. You have to do a full inventory of your entire tool library in your shop, essentially. So like it's kind of like the foam boxes, the Kaizen foam, the equivalent of that, but they would have like these tool chests that would open up, and they would have the silhouettes of each tool painted in black, and they would all snap in place. So if one wasn't there, there'd be a big black thing in its place, right, the silhouette, and you could easily visually see if something was missing, like even to the scale of like little screwdrivers or bits, for socket wrenches, because one of those left in an aircraft, if it gets stuck in the wrong spot, it can cause people to die. So they take that stuff like super seriously. So there's all these protocols that leadership had set in place. I mean, that was, compared to how my shop looks now, you would never guess that was a protocol I followed back then.
It didn't stick, did it?
No, maybe I should adopt that. But as long as you didn't endanger anybody or yourself, then, and followed all your military, dress code and stuff. It wasn't like super sloppy kind of stuff, but your hair's, within regs and your beard. And as long as you're doing your job and doing what you're asked to do, then
You could have a beard
no. I meant like your haircut.
or your sideburns.
Yeah, not
Sideburn
even
length?
like there had to be a certain height, and then your hair couldn't be but so far off of your neckline. And I think you could have a mustache, but there were parameters. I didn't have one at the time, but
Yeah, your sideburns can't go lower than the lowest opening of your ear.
yeah.
Your hair cannot touch the back of your collar or be in a faddish that was style. Your mustache could not extend past the outer outer extent of your lips. Your fingernails could not extend past the tips of your fingers. Goofy things. But you could be super ugly, though.
Yeah.
No one cared if you were really ugly.
There's so many rules in the military. In the leadership is a little bit different because half of it's just making sure everybody does what they're supposed to be doing, which isn't, I guess, that much different than normal leadership, but it feels like
it's a
you're
balance, I
more
think.
regimented,
Yeah, you're trying to maintain good order and discipline. And really, the recourse to that is you're trying to get people to do it themselves. And so you're taking, like, the military, you're taking, Sean, your people. You're almost grown-ups. And in, let's see, basic training was what, like, between 7 to 9 weeks. In that time frame, you are making them, like, a mature, like, adult. But they're not. Like, they're absolutely not mentally ready for that. But you were given way more responsibility than a person in that age should be given. So you're going from a pseudo-human in Tron's classroom to, like, a magna human.
Yeah.
Even in 9 weeks.
Yeah, the average age of a sailor on a carrier is 19.
Right? And that's the same thing. Like, we've had people flying helicopters, driving tanks, like flying jets before they can drink alcohol. So to try to instill that and make them want to do it, the military just breaks them down and does it through like negative association or like negative enforcement. And so it's like, oh, you're gonna screw up. I'm going to make you do push-ups, or I'm going to scream at you, or I'm going to berate you, or I'm going to whatever you until you. That is so ill-affecting that you are going to prevent yourself and check yourself in the future.
Yeah, like, isn't the part of that too? Is, I mean, you're looking at the age of that person, and one of the reasons why the military is set up that way is because you shouldn't be questioning this. We've already figured this stuff out. You need to do it this way for these reasons. Don't question it because you're not capable of fully understanding the reason yet because you don't have the experience or perspective.
Or it's just easier when people don't question things.
Right.
It's usually just faster. It's just like, just go because I told you to. Okay, but that's enough.
Right.
And as a leader, like that, I've been through 2 different leadership courses through my tenure in the Army, and a majority of it is these are the rules. You need to be like the expert. Not necessarily this is how to get across to like, oh, you have a difficult person you have to deal with. Here's some different ways to get to the heart of their problem, or like some root cause analysis so you can try to approach things in a different way. And it's stuff that you would do in a civilian world to try to get to convince somebody as a leader that your ways or your course of action or your methods are the best for the group. You know, in the military, it's you need to know the answer to the question so that you can point out someone else's wrongness. And then that will give you respect. And therefore you will be a good leader. And so like the concepts of empathy, like you don't need none of that. Don't worry about what they're doing. As long as they show up to work and they're pretty much sober and they don't kill anybody by accident, like that's fine.
There's some really interesting psychological approaches with leadership too. And there's one book that I had to read for my master's regarding leadership, and it had to do with the aspect of when you are in charge of a group and you are trying to make a change or make a policy change, whatever that is, as long as you maintain that policy and enforce it for a certain period of time, the group will eventually end up accepting it. But you have to be consistent, and you have to support it for a long enough period of time. And the people that are under your direction will typically, there are some exceptions depending on the group you're talking about, but in most cases, they will accept it and they will adjust to that. I think that's a really interesting psychological concept of the way that people react to leadership, to management, to all those different things.
Well, I don't know. It's really messed up when you make such a bold transition between that style of leadership in the military to in the civilian world or becoming a father. Like, my kid doesn't understand this background, and they don't have to listen. I mean, they have to listen to you because you're their dad, but in essence, like, that kid doesn't have to listen to you. They didn't sign the dotted line. So how do you get them to want to do what you say? And that was the real tricky part. And I had to come to grips with that, like being a civilian, like these people can do anything. How do I inspire them to do what I want them to do? And at the same time, be humble enough to realize that my ideas might not be the best ideas, and I need to listen to them and make people feel valued. And because, again, the Army didn't care about your special skills. They didn't care about what you did in your off time. You could be the greatest whatever. But, like, is your mustache right? Like, that's the important part. Can you run fast? How many push-ups can you do? Like, oh, you can do it? That's great. We don't need you to do that right now. I need you to do the thing that I told you to do. Turn that wrench. Shoot that gun. Whatever it is. And the individual was less important than the leader. And I learned that those two things can very easily that concept can be swapped over and be just as beneficial when you're dealing with non-military personnel. You value people for who they are and what they bring to the table.
Okay. You set up a good transition there of how do some of these leadership things apply now to being a parent? Because some things will kind of carry over, but it is a different mentality, especially when you're working with such a young individual as all of our kids are right now. So how do you take those concepts and bring that into fatherhood?
I had to learn to listen. Like, even though I cast off my kids as being too young to understand or too young to make like a logical thought that would hold up in a real debate, and I was wrong. I'm wrong with my 8-year-old, and so I have to learn to listen to him, and I have to learn to own up to my mistakes, which is very difficult to do, and meet them at their level rather than dragging them up to mine.
Yeah.
That's one thing I had to learn.
You expect them to have like the emotional. You don't expect them, but
You want them to.
It's very easy, yeah, to compare them to a emotionally stable adult, right? Like, why are you getting upset over this? You understand, like, the rationale between blah 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 blah. You should not be upset over this, but they're still, developing their emotional rules, right, internally, and they have to come up with all those parameters to know when it's socially acceptable to feel this way or to express things in certain conditions and certain situations. So I had to learn that as well too. I'm still learning that for Samantha. Like, yeah,
their logic centers are still kind of like Jello.
right.
They don't really have a solid form yet, and they're still kind of like a work in progress. I mean, it's like Mark, Mark, like what experience are you having right now with your daughter in terms of that?
Well, I was gonna say I find misdirection helps immensely.
Squirrel.
Like if she's freaking out, because she hates eating lately for some reason, and she gets to that point in the day where she's hangry, and you can't explain to her, you're in such a crap mood because you haven't eaten. You need to eat some food. No. So it's like misdirection. She was throwing a tantrum for something the other day, and she has a couple toys she loves, and she like whenever I'm doing something, she's always running around, help daddy. So it's like, all right, she's throwing a tantrum, middle of crying. You want to go help daddy? Okay. Mm-hmm. And runs off. So right now my experience is learning how to make her quickly forget why she's angry, and then things calm down and we can kind of deal with what she wants to do and why she's freaking out, or she'll just forget about it completely and move on.
That works for Samantha too. If she gets really upset, and then let's say Catherine's engaging her about whatever the thing is, and she won't calm down. I'll just do something not really maybe silly or make her laugh, and she'll just instantly start laughing. I'm like, see, you're not, she'll do the fake upset or faking and making something a bigger deal than it is kind of thing. And I'll break it immediately with making her laugh. I'll pretend like I'm tripping or run into a tree or, whatever the situation calls for. And just to prove to her and to us that, hey, we know you're making a mountain out of a molehill, and cut it out, so
I've called Thea out on it a couple times too, because she'll start you can tell when they're faking it, right? So I'll just look at her and be like, you're lying, and she's like, and then gives me the crap look like, how do you know? Which is funny. But I'm also working on my dad stare, which is when you've gone through it a couple times and you're like, that's enough, without saying that's enough. And I had one perfect one where she was doing something and I looked at her with the crap eyes and she just immediately stopped, and I was like, yes.
Actually, that's a decent leadership trait. Someone taught me that in the Army. He was like, you just don't speak and you just stare at them for an uncomfortable amount of time, and usually they'll tell on themselves. He's like, don't say the first word, kind of like that whole rule of negotiation. He's like, just stare blindly at him. And I remember I was talking to Deacon about something, and I know that he's not telling me the full truth. He may not be lying, and so I'll just stare at him, and I won't say a word. I will lock eye contact, not blink, and just stare. And he's like, but I did. And I just mute stare, but. Well, I'm like, and he'll drag himself down a hole, or stop and realize that I'm not buying any of that garbage, and just bring himself back up and tell me the whole story. And you go, thank you, and just walk away.
That's fun.
But Sean, I think your point though about consistency, especially with kids, consistency it means so much. It is ridiculous because if they don't know what kind of mood you're going to be in, how can you expect them to meet your expectations if they don't know what they are?
Yeah, and for any real new fathers, like really early on, we have this. Well, I initially had this idea of, you know what, I'm going to establish this stuff really early, and they're going to know right from wrong. They're going to know not to do these things, and the answer is yeah, that'll work, but it's eventually, and it's really still that matter of staying consistent. You know, it won't happen right away, but eventually that behavior will be kind of instilled, and hopefully, over a period of time, then it will kind of, you know, take hold and solidify. But it really is kind of like a waiting game on some of these things for their abilities and their cognitive abilities to kind of catch up to some of that logic. But if you've been maintaining that and you've stayed consistent with it, it'll become normal for them.
And then it becomes easier. Like the more you're consistent, you don't have to go the full deep dad stare, a real quick stare with like a little like disapproving canted head. They're like, oh, I forgot. And then they'll kind of start to check themselves. So you don't have to like make a big spectacle out of something to correct a behavior if it is a little simple for, you know, oh man, I forgot, I'm sorry, when you are consistent with it. And we have a thing like you don't eat food anywhere in the house other than the dinner table or like the kitchen. Like that's a thing because you're going to get food all over my couch. And it goes back to the white trash hooligan thing we talked about. But we had some friends come and stay over, and she gave their kid a snack while they were watching a movie, and they ran over to the couch and sat down. And I'm like, nope. Like, you don't do that. And Deacon was like, we don't eat food on the couch. You eat food in there.
That's a good moment of pride, though.
Yeah, I'm like, you're damn right. I was going to get mad, and I was going to say something, but he came up and he checked him. I'm like, look at that kid go. Like, kind of being a know-it-all, but at the same time, like, yeah, that's the rule of the house. So if they know what to expect, you know, they'll check themselves sometimes.
It's nice.
So what about in the community, right? In our Making Dad community here in the podcast, in our YouTube channels, like our online persona, how can we be proper leaders or proper examples for people that are viewing our content?
I'll talk really quick about this. And we spent a lot of last episode talking about different aspects of social media, but I made a conscious choice a while ago, and I've tried to stay consistent with this, but to not participate in anything that I thought was inappropriate. You know, whether it's a meme that somebody posts, whether it is some sort of offhanded comment using, you know, offensive language, I've tried to stay away from even participating or commenting too much. I might have once or twice, but I try to stay away from it because I really am trying to set an image for myself and what I'm representing with my YouTube channel and with my family. And I'm trying to stay consistent with that, even dealing in social media. And that's one way I'm trying to set a precedence for some of these things. I know a lot of other people don't feel that way. I know that at times people even said, oh, you know, that's childish or something like that. Wes, you okay there? Oh.
Sorry.
I'm good.
But I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to set, you know, what I think the certain expectation should be with some of that behavior. A lot of people don't agree, and I know, just I believe in it, and I'm trying to maintain that. That's how I'm trying to, I guess, apply that aspect of leadership.
I think it's admirable, and I think that you earn respect by taking a stand and saying, this is what I believe in, these are the things that I won't compromise. Whether people like it or not, it's really not up to them. Like Wes doesn't drink. Like, I think that's extremely admirable. Yeah. You have your reasons. It's none of your business to explain your reasons to me, but that's what you do, and you're convicted and you stick to it. You get my respect. People don't like to eat pork or like to do whatever. Good. As long as you're, again, if you're consistent about it. Because if you say that you stand for something and then you're super wishy-washy about it, then how can I respect that platform that you're taking? But I mean, here on the show, like we've made it a point to try to keep it clean, as best we can. But we don't want to
90%.
Right? We don't want to put a little explicit E on our show, and it was very early on where we had to make that distinction. And I think for me, I made the point that I don't want to record something that I could not listen to with my kids.
In the car.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that was like an established norm that we set here,
metric,
so
yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
so that if anybody wanted to listen to it, we're not excluding anybody because of just like unnecessary foul language. Which
Foul language. That was a good episode where we broke that
we
mold.
had foul language.
We did,
yes.
exactly. Yes.
It is so hard. It's getting easier the longer we go, though.
It's good.
You've gotten better at self-censoring.
Oh my god, sometimes it's so hard. So, I don't know another word for this.
And, we still do try to appeal to our adult audience and, with our little innuendos or whatever, that a kid wouldn't pick up on it as much. But, yeah, I think it's something that we decided early on that was very important to us.
It's the Looney Tunes level of adult topics. The kids won't realize it until they grow up.
Mm-hmm.
The Animaniacs, right?
Yes.
No, well, I don't even think it, like...
Hello, nurse.
Looney Tunes was a lot worse than Animaniacs, though. Like, I remember the day I realized
The
that
Prince
Bugs
joke,
Bunny
man.
was drunk a lot.
That's
There were
true.
a lot of XXX jugs.
That's
Yeah.
true.
There was an entire
Is that a
cartoon
double
called
pun?
How Dry Am I? About a drunk music note drinking and getting beat up. The entire cartoon.
A lot of early animation was never meant for kids anyways, and that's probably just the spirit of that.
Like it was meant for dumb soldiers who were doing stupid things. who need to be smacked around. So you had to like, oh, you're not a real human yet. So here's a cartoon to tell you how to not die. Thanks, Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss got to start making like GI movies before he started making kids books.
I don't think I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I had
Yeah, you
no
can go
idea
back and
about
watch
that.
those. Yeah, I forgot the name. There's Private Somebody that he started doing, and I forgot who did the voice. It was also somebody else that was famous who did the voice. But it was like ways that they were finding that soldiers were dying because of stupid things. And they're like, well, how do we, like, what's a leadership technique? Here, I'll throw it back. That we can employ to get these morons to quit being stupid, because we yell at them and they just keep doing stupid stuff. And so they're like, well, we need to meet them at their level because they're pretty much children. And so they made these cartoons, which was the time, and showed how this guy was just being dumb and got a bunch of people killed. And they're like, oh, I guess I shouldn't do that. And the Army still has that now. They have, in Stars and Stripes, there's a comic by like a private, which is like the lowest kind of rank you can get. And it has like the woes of this one kind of private and all the dumb things that he does or the dumb things that surrounds him. And it's written and it's presented on a non-official kind of level so that it's more relatable. So, one of those techniques is to, again, meet people where they are and to communicate to them on their level, because you can yell, you can scream, or you could wax intellectual all day long, but if it's not received by the people that you're hoping to get across, then it's all just wasted effort. You sound like a pompous turd.
Yep.
Which I don't have anymore because we don't watch Facebook anymore.
I think we're all contemplating different things right now.
It's
How
a
many of
weird
them are
moment of
turkey
silence.
related?
very introspective episode.
Yes. Well, the idea of leadership is a really interesting thing, and I've had to think about it more as I've gotten older, because I didn't have those early experiences that you guys had in the military. I had some early management experience before I even knew what leadership was, or even before I wanted those roles. But I think leadership is something that happens as a natural progression of time, whether it's being a parent or just the natural aspect of getting older and advancing in your job. I think leadership is a natural role that you eventually have to kind of assume. So at some point, I think that everybody has to kind of consider some of these things, especially because you're trying to be a positive influence for other people, or just simply trying to get people to do what you want.
Yeah, and I think that there's a fine line between like positive leadership techniques and manipulation, because it's really like, how do you get a group of people that are resistant to whatever it is that you're going to do to get, to make them do what you want them to do. And so Ron Swanson was like, people only care about food, money, and whatever time off. I don't remember what the other thing was. When Chris Traeger was like, no, it's about all these other things. And so there's what influences people or what affects people like is different to the individual. And so it's really hard to just lump in a group of people and go, oh, give them this. And at Lockheed, I was the professional development coordinator. So I had to get up and give like these speeches about like how to motivate people and how to keep people inspired. And the older generation that was there, because it was like a union workforce and management workforce, and it's just they had pensions and things that didn't happen anymore. They're like, oh, well, people just respond. They're only there because they get paid. And for a lot of people, if you pay them well enough, that becomes far less of a factor in their influence. And so people want to be inspired. They want to follow somebody who appreciates their work. They want to feel valued. And you can get a lot out of a person just by reinforcing that you appreciate what it is that they're doing. And there was a study, I forgot who did the study. It's a popular TED Talk. But there was a social experiment that this sociologist did with Legos. So he had these 3 groups of people. And he started off with $100. He's like, would you put this Lego set, the small one, would you put this Lego set together for $100? They're like, yeah, sure. So out of the 3 groups, I said, yeah. So, and he took it. In the first group, he went, great. And then he took it apart and set it back down on the table. He goes, will you do it again for $90? And then they did, and so on and so on. They just wanted to see how low, and he kept dropping that increment to see like the value of that task. So the 3 groups was the first one he picked it up and said, great, took it apart. The second group, he picked it up and did nothing and just took it apart. And the third group, he picked it up and threw it in the trash can and made them pick it up out of the trash can. And he goes, now would you do it for $90? And that number was much smaller. So the first group you would expect, yeah, people would like, yeah, the guy said great. They get some type of positive reinforcement. They would probably do it more often. And they did. And the people who got their stuff thrown in the trash can, you would expect that negative reinforcement to like, oh, I don't want to do it that much. And so you expect those numbers would vary greatly. But the group in the middle, where they got really nothing, it was not negative, it was not positive, it did not correlate along that same graph that you would expect it would be in the middle. It was on par with the negative association, like dramatically equivalent to the negative association. So by not necessarily being mean to your people, but just not acknowledging your people is just as bad as being negative to them. And so little simple things like saying thank you or acknowledging that, even a repetitive, boring task is appreciated or is difficult, or, even if you don't think it really is, it is to them because it's a whole different set of experiences. And so like little things like that, like playing to people and managing people in their lives and their thought processes can pay off dividends if done correctly.
Yeah, there's all sorts of psychological factors that go into that, even like making sure that you're on the same eye level as somebody else, when you really want to be heard and understood and be part of that conversation. And I was actually evaluated today by like 20 different people that actually walked through my class. And I had all my students in groups, and as I'm walking around to the groups and talking to them about their task, they're sitting down at a desk, I'm standing up, but each time I went to go talk to them, I sat down on the edge of the desk. I tried to reduce my eye level because I want them to be part of the conversation. It's not me lecturing to them. I'm not talking down to them. It's a conversation where I want them to learn and get something out of it. So there's all sorts of things like that in leadership that can kind of be a big benefit, even like with your kids, even as a father. Not standing up and looking down on them, but get down on a knee or both sit down on a chair and have a face-to-face conversation.
I've learned that one. That one works with my kids.
Yeah.
It's goofy little things you don't think about, and it's very psychological.
Yep.
And that takes a lot of effort. Because in the military, it was easy to go bark at somebody. And then if they tried to resist you, you just bark louder.
And there's something interesting about that, too, because the whole conversation, Josh, you asked me about kind of like experiences as a teacher. And I've had a lot of situations where I've made good connections with students. And they'll kind of ask me, well, why doesn't this other teacher teach the way you teach? And I said, well, and it's not that I agree with the other teaching method, but this is usually what I tell students. I tell them, I teach this way because I have to teach this way, because I would hate my life and I hated teaching if I didn't try to make a connection this way. And I said, but from your point of view as a student, you need to be adaptable, because people are not always going to do things the way that you want. They're not always going to talk to you the way that you want to be talked to. You have to be perceptive enough to be, I guess being able to adapt to these different situations and not completely shut down just because you don't like somebody else's approach. You don't always have that choice. Mm-hmm. So teaching them that there's different styles and to be adaptable and all these other things as well. Yeah.
Even that is a good thing, because I can count on probably more fingers the bad leaders that I've had than the positive ones. And you learn, I mean, it's unfortunate in the moment, but when that person is gone, you can take away some pretty deep-seated, tenets for life, by learning from the bad ones.
And you can't always blame bad leadership. I mean, I know that you technically can, but if you have a certain level of responsibility that you're still supposed to be maintaining, you can't always just point to the leadership and say, "Oh, it didn't work out because of this." Well, if you had a task that you didn't complete, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore.
No, I get what you're saying.
No, I say you're saying that even though they might have been less than ideal to work with, you still had a responsibility outside of that person. So if you didn't do that to spite them, it's cutting your nose off to spite your face.
There you go. Yeah, I couldn't quite articulate that right now.
It's a little fresh.
So, you guys got anything else? You guys geeking out about anything?
Yeah, have you guys been checking out the project that Kyle's been posting? The Mobius strip?
Yes.
He's making? So
Kyle Toth?
Kyle Toth. Mr. Kyle Toth.
I saw the start of that.
Yeah. There's 6 videos, maybe 7 videos. They're 5 to 7 minutes long, approximately, going through the whole process. He's making a 3D Mobius strip out of laminated pieces of wood. And he did all the math and everything for them to all line up, and he's got tons of rubber bands holding it all together, and it's a lot of fun to see his process of how he did that stuff, and his thoughts on how to shape it properly to maintain different edges, and it's pretty cool. And they're all kind of nugget. They're small enough where you don't feel like it's a big commitment to watch one here and there. It's pretty good.
I think that's a good format for him.
I do too.
Because he does amazing work that is super detailed and extremely difficult, but he puts it in a really short video, which I think can give someone the perception that he is not as skilled as he is, because he can get all of that work done in a single kind of digestible YouTube video. So I think doing these little snippets is good. I think it gives a lot of perspective into how difficult the work that he does truly is.
Yep, so I recommend checking him out. If you have not heard of him, Kyle Toth on YouTube.
I am geeking out about a game that I can't play.
Because one of those two?
Because I don't have a PlayStation 4, which means I can't play the new God of War. But I am geeking out about it anyways, because I think that secretly God of War is a game that I've been wanting for a really long time, because it centers around the relationship of a father and son. And it actually kind of probably mirrors some of the things that we've been talking about today in terms of being setting an example for for a kid, for your kid, and going through off on these adventures. And
Donkey Kong Country.
But with a lot more blood.
Red
But with
Dead
a lot
Redemption.
more blood. I've never played it.
God, I
Oh,
can't
my.
wait till 2.
I know. But I'm geeking out about the game because I love the concept of it, and I'm a huge fan of the series, but I don't have a PlayStation 4, so I can't play it. So I'm geeking out about it by looking at reviews and watching a couple playthroughs and trying to hold on to my money.
Vicariously.
Yes. Desperately trying to, because there's a couple of things I'm trying to save up for that are maker related. But man, I do love the way that game looks. But that's it.
I'm geeking out about the new Lost in Space. I think I'm 3 episodes in so far, and it's pretty good. I never watched the original Lost in Space. That was well before my time. That was Nick at Night type stuff.
Yes.
But
Miss Nick at Night.
hey, where can else could you see Mr. Ed and Bewitched?
Right. Last
I learned a lot about 50s and 60s culture because of those old shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Lost in Space is cool. It's
Did
more
you see
than
the last movie?
no.
I think I
It
did.
wasn't as horrible. Like it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't horrible though.
So, I don't know the context of the show, but there's a lot of flashbacks, so that you're getting them on the planet and you're getting them on Earth, and like the family dynamic, and they're also these explorers, and so it's really deep. There's a lot of layers to the show, and like right out of the bat, the very first episode, they get into a lot. So it's been really cool so far. Marcus?
I'm kind of just geeking out over some projects I'm starting. I actually, in the past couple days, I started a lot of projects. Tracy said she wanted like these set of coasters or like peacock design. So I have that on the computer already. I just got to figure out how to get everything onto if I'm going to use easel or the other one. And 2 3D printing projects. Yeah, it's just kind of like getting a lot of time to do some personal work lately. So that's kind of exciting.
Sweet.
Very cool. And I think it's that time to start talking about how you can contribute to the show. You could go ahead and visit the Making Geeks website, check out the contact page, drop us a question, suggestion for the show. And speaking of suggestions for the show and questions, we had 2 really cool emails that were sent to us from Mr. Josh Luther and Grant Peter, if I'm remembering or getting those names correct. I hope I am. And we really appreciate hearing from anybody that watches either the YouTube stream or listens to the show. We pass those notes around, take a look at them, and we definitely consider everything suggested and love hearing that this is actually making an impact and resonating with some of our listeners. That is great motivation to continue doing this. And once again, on the homepage of the website, you can check out all of our past episodes and take a look at all of our past guests as well, right there on makinggeeks.com.
You can also find us across all the social medias on Instagram at Making Geeks Podcast and Facebook and Twitter at Making Geeks.
And we'd like to thank our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks for pledging their hard-earned money towards our little podcast and help keeping the engine running, as it were. Their contributions help fund stickers and trips and get-togethers where we can come together as a podcast, and hopefully we can do that coming up here in May, in like a month, literally a month from now. We're all going to be at the Bay Area Maker Faire, so I think we should keep mentioning that. So if any of you guys are going to be in the area in May, in San Mateo, come find us, come high-five us, hang out. And I'd like to thank our top patron, Mr. Seth Williams, for his patronage, and all of our Patreons and all our patrons. Thanks for your support.
And you can find our own individual bodies of work at geeksmithing.com, geekbuilders.net, asylum-3d.com, Mark's new website, and the piworkshop.com. And we'd like to thank everybody for hanging out with us this Saturday. This was a super fun topic.
It was good.
Yeah. And as always, we appreciate you listening and hanging out with us. Thank you for everybody in the live YouTube episode. Thanks for talking with us during the episode. It was really fun. And as always, we hope you have a fantastic week.
Good night, everybody.
Later, everybody.
Have fun.
All right. So we're just gonna do one episode tonight, or what's the?
I'm
dealio?
good for it.
Let's see. Let's do.
I have nothing to do tomorrow.
Are we still streaming on YouTube?
We are currently.
Yes.
So I'm gonna stop this, and we'll discuss it. So those of you in the chat, just hang out for about 5 minutes, and we'll come. If we come back within 5 minutes, we're back. If not, we'll see y'all next week. We'll decide. We're trying to. You guys want to do another one? I mean,
I'm
down.
good for it.
Okay.
I got time.
So
I
basically,
have an idea for a topic too.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Just for those
Next
in the
episode,
chat,
5 minutes.
just so you know, we're
Let me
trying
figure
to
this out.
dogpile enough of them so that we end up at 100 when we're at Maker Faire. So we're at. That's why we're doubling up the episodes. So we just want to make sure we're doing good. So this is 95, 96. Nice. Yeah, if we double up this week, then every other week we can do a single and we'll be exactly right. So this is the last
We'll be back
double
to
up.
regular?
Mm-hmm.
Which means that any extra time that we spend next week should be dedicated towards
The
putting
talk.
together the actual show.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I'll stop this and we'll come right back. So y'all in the chat, stay